Avanti popolo, alla riscossa, mangiare rossa, mangiare rossa.
Well, let's get right into it, shall we?
One of the earliest hot takes I made on this channel about 6 years and 70 pounds ago was that one should not debate fascists. People did not like that I said this. They felt that I was being a stinky boy, giving a stinky opinion. The threat, as I perceived it then, was that fascists would manipulate good faith debate in order to gain a platform, that they would weasel their way into the political mainstream by...
I to an extent agree with Thought Slime. I would even expand it to reactionary elements of the so-called left that define themselves as left-wing, as people who were never really good at creating content that is original and almost exclusively fed off of reacting to a guy reacting to them saying something stupid. So when we pretty much stopped replying, they ended up not having any content to react to, therefore without any content themselves, and slowly disappeared into obscurity.
Tricking their opponents into giving them free airtime and access to their audience by being deliberately provocative and sensationalist. That by treating their opinions like something we can debate in good faith, their ideas would become accepted as normal. So, do you see why I was worried about that now? Do you see what I meant about all that stuff I said? Got it in one, I'd say. That's the stuff that happened. So now what, right? Like, the fascists are everywhere, under every rock.
Listen, it's patterns of motivation. Most people that are currently reactionary, that listen to reactionaries, only listen to them because they want to reaffirm their belief. So when you're debating them and you bring on a lot of fascists into your audience in order for them to watch you completely annihilate their father figure or their ideological leader on the marketplace of ideas, you're not doing much, because in their eyes you will not have defeated them. No matter how much better your argument is, no matter how much more it was based in research, the materialist understanding the world, etc., etc., etc. If your opponent simply says, shut the fuck up, you gay stupid piece of shit, they'll be like, oh my god, my guy is so fucking based, he annihilated this communist prick, right? You're basically just leveling him up in their eyes because they annihilated you, even if they got completely wiped. You always level them up when you interact with them. Sure, they won't be able to take anybody out of your community either, because hopefully you've managed to foster a community of people that are not literal troglodytes. But on the other hand, their relationship to said reactionary figure or philosopher or content creator, etc., etc., will solidify, because in their eyes are going to be like super giga Chad man that went and destroyed the stupid sissy cuck boy. I'm not saying that we should not be actively fighting fascist ideology and reactionary ways of thinking. We need to constantly be attacking those systems. We should constantly be attacking their pitch. But the ones that are holding up the megaphone and screaming those reactionary pitches, bringing them on our platform to talk to them or to educate them or educate their audience, is not the way you destroy the pitch. So attack the idea. Don't bother with the fucking troglodytes that are doing it. Unless you want to basically utilize it to grow your platform even more, etc., etc. There are some relatively smart ways that you can, take to do that.
So how do we speak back to fascism without giving fascists the attention and legitimacy they want? The real work is obviously community support, civil disobedience, armed resistance, and a bunch of boring care work that nobody thinks about. But I can't help you with that. I'm a moron. But that means I know how morons think. You see, I do have a very broad answer to the question I posed, that stuff I just said about how we talk back to fascism without giving them legitimacy. But before I can explain it to you, we have to lay some groundwork. We have to understand how fascists argue and how come they does do it that way. Here's the thing you absolutely need to understand before we can proceed. They're losers. Each and every one of them. It is a loser movement for losers by losers.
When you're pitching Marxism or anarchist ideas, etc., etc., you need to explain to someone what systems exist in place that are directly impacting their life, or if they're less individualistic, the world and their species in general, and then lift them into a particular way of thinking. Fascism completely 1,000,000% plays on emotion, and more importantly, on validating their previously established, organically very often defined ideas, or if they're not organic ideas that society, their parents, the particular place they grew up in, kind of placed in their head that they never managed to question. So it's a continuous revalidation process, right? With Marxism, you teach an overarching understanding of the world that no longer needs to be validated once it is accepted. Fascism exclusively leeches off of basically the emotional therapies you receive from fascist ideologues when they tell you that none of this is your fault, it's that other person's fault, and we really like the direction that the world is going, except when it gets into a moment of crisis, when we want it to become a little bit more violent, etc., etc. So again, difference is one teaches, the other one teaches you how to stay away from learning. Very, very radically different approaches to developing one's worldview.
Only losers become fascists. This is not a judgment, merely a statement of fact. To become a fascist is merely one symptom.
Yes, but there is an unfortunate reality that needs to be added to this. Once you seize power in totality, even if your ideology is we all need to wake up in the morning, right? Like, let's say a poop fascist movement. And we say, you're going to cure every illness if you eat your own shit. And then in my poop fascism movement, all my generals and ministers are absolute fucking idiots that actually believe that eating your own poop is going to solve absolutely everything. If we end up controlling the military, controlling the police force, and if large capital agrees with producing extra poop surplus in order for everyone to have access to poop to eat, aka if we own both the monopoly on violence and capital reproduction, the big fucking money, you will be able to run a country for a very long time where everybody is going to be forced to eat shit every morning. Even if everybody is realizing, holy fuck, like eating shit every morning is very fucking stupid. Yes, it will reproduce people that will start believing it, and they're going to kill other people because they're not fellow poop eaters. But when it comes to just the monopoly on violence and basically the financial monopoly, etc., you will not, nobody will be able to liberate themselves, because that is what the new state becomes. That is what the new status quo becomes. And if you give it a couple of generations, that becomes absolutely normal. It becomes absolutely normal. Like a small example, whenever I went to the States and saw just the thousands of homeless people and drug addicts littering the streets, etc., the first thought that went through my brain is like, how is nobody losing their fucking mind here? How is nobody literally crying 24/7 because of the amount of suffering they have to endure and look at? I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about, more privileged people that are not on the street. How are people not literally going like, what the fuck is going on? There's people dying everywhere. What the shit? Why do they not react? Because it's become normalized to them. The same way, if you hold on to power for a decent enough time, you can normalize eating shit every morning. Normality is a subjective context that arises from, basically, to simplify to the max, from the only thing you know. And if the only thing that you've ever known is eating shit for breakfast, you will eat shit for breakfast with a fucking smile. Ideology reproduces whatever the dominating class defines as normal. Read fucking Gramsci and so on. And that, yes, could even be poop. I apologize to those that are eating right now.
Of an underlying spiritual loserness. Because when you really boil it down to its core, it is a movement of woe is me crybabies. People with some sort of gripe who are desperate to find someone else.
Are you saying that all fascists are just scat players? Mine was more of an allegory, but also quite literally. Somebody did research on the correlation between different ideologies, in particular sexual fetishes. And when it comes to the so-called authoritarian right, there is a high amount of correlation between radical right-wingers and people that want other people to shit in their mouth and on their face and pee on them and do very nasty stuff to them.
To blame instead of doing something about it. To be asked to earn power or privilege is a slap in the face. They should just have it because they're daddy's special boy, the best, most masterest race, or the smartest, most enlightenedest civilization, or they're the good religion that God likes. Sometimes, by sheer coincidence, their grievances happen to be legitimate, just directed towards the wrong target. Maybe they're poor or unemployed, and instead of getting angry at the rich and powerful, the people who are actually always responsible for that, they instead choose to
It's basically like lower on the pipeline of right-wing radicalization. You want somebody to keep telling you that the other side is stupid. The higher you go, the more they're going to be, let's use the word honest with you, in saying that the end solution is not really arguing with the group that disagrees with you, that you're, the God's chosen people, wink, wink, that you are inherently genetically superior, that you are the stronger and better gender, whatever the fuck you wanna take from that. The end solution to every reactionary way of thinking is the final solution. But that's also a snake eating its own ass, because even the most successful fascist movement that might in some alternate dimension succeed in eliminating their so-called problem will then go on for another half a decade or a decade and realize that, holy shit, all my problems are still there, even though I killed all those people that I used to define as the big bad enemy. So what do we do then? Then, ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, we find another outgroup to target until there's basically just 2 white dudes left. That's it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to support the channel and the editor's hard work. And if you want more, join us live on Twitch 4 times a week. Click the link below and follow Yugopnik Twitch to get notified whenever we go live.